Good afternoon. It's fun to be back, ready to get cranked up again this season. Uh, really been encouraged by the attitude and the work ethic of our guys in the off season. I think they've had a great summer, and the last couple of days have been productive. We had practiced yesterday afternoon and this morning, and looking forward to getting into shells tomorrow, and just kind of building on that and cranking up. Clearly, the month of September is going to be huge. Not only do we have the big conference road game to start the season, but we've also got Virginia and Miami both in the month of September. So we may be the only team in America with 3 division games in the month of September. So it'll be a big challenge. But I think it's one that our guys are looking forward to. So while it is a challenge, it gives you a lot to work for. So I guess just throw it open for some questions.
Well, where a lot of seasons, the early season games, when they tend to be Western Carolina, Presbyterian, et cetera, schools like that, I guess you and the staff would use a lot more time to establish a pecking order, maybe beyond the starters. You know your starters, but you want to get an idea who has a chance to help in the event of injuries and so forth. Is it important, given your early schedule this year and the nature of it, to make more of those decisions at an earlier point in time than you normally would?
I'm not sure we're going to approach it a whole lot differently than you do most camps. I mean, we'll have a scrimmage next Saturday against each other. You always have a little bit of teamwork against other things because the people you play don't run the same defenses and the same offenses. So just like today, we did teamwork against different looks. But all in all, we'll still probably play against ourselves for a good, week and a half or 2 weeks, and then we'll probably start switching scout teams and really get cranked in on the game plan for Virginia Tech.
You'll practice tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, we'll practice tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon. We'll give the morning off for church, and then we'll come back about 1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
Coach, you think you'll see a difference in knowing that Virginia Tech's that first game as opposed to something else that you had the last 20 years? Do you think you'll see a difference in the players and a little hop-to-itness maybe during practice time?
I think our guys have approached camp in the right way the last couple of years. I mean, I'm sure that a conference game and a big one, the motivation might be a little greater, but and that may be why we had a really good off season in the summer. But so far I've been pleased with the way they've approached it.
I know you've only had a couple of practices, but what have you seen from the freshmen coming in so far?
Well, I think that this is a good class. We're excited about them. I try not to make too many judgments on shorts and helmets. Some of those guys run around pretty good, and then when the hitting starts, the guys you didn't look as good just running around become football players. So we'll judge. I think this is the most depth we've had since I've been here. If you just go position by position, certainly that's a positive. So how many of those guys will play remains to be seen. There's probably a chance that a handful will play.
Coach, coaching the system offensively the way you have for the last couple of years, you obviously have it mastered. How soon can you tell? I mean, after just 2 practices, who's kind of picking up the offense, who's kind of not picking up quite as quickly? How early into the practices can you start to see that push in the backfield?
Well, you can see the first day or the first practice who has better football acumen or better IQ or picks things up quickest. But I don't think it matters what system you run. It takes guys. It's a transition. I mean, you come in and as a freshman you're 18 years old. Some of these guys are 17. We got a couple that are still 17, and all of a sudden you're playing against 21, 22-year-olds that been in there. It's more than picking up on the system. there's a maturity factor and a strength factor and all those kind of things. So normally for a guy to come in, if you have a true freshman come in and they're starting, they're usually a pretty special player. I mean, I look back at just in the last couple of years, our NFL guys. I wasn't here, but Derek Morgan nor Bebe Thomas started as a freshman. John Dwyer sure didn't start as a freshman. They were pretty good. I think Stephen Hill did midway. He played. But so it's pretty hard, and a lot of times it's more by almost having to sometimes than being ready. And I think we're to the point now where we're not as much having to. If one of the freshmen play, it's going to be because they're clearly have a chance to be a pretty good player if they end up being a starter. Yeah.
Coach Adam Gotsis from Australia, how is he receiving I'm sure he's getting a lot of help from the fellow players.
Right.
And how is he fitting in, and how is he learning and taking on the information that's being given to him to help him fit into the team?
Well, he's fitting in great. I mean, he's a big kid that runs well. He's very athletic. We're really encouraged by what we've seen out of him the last 2 days. Now, he's like the rest of the young guys in that it's a lot coming at him with installation. But, I think that we're really pleased with him. I'm glad that we've got him. He's on our team. It was funny because we always give we have snacks for the guys at night after they go back to the hotel. And 2 nights ago it was Philly Connection or some Philly cheesesteak. He had no clue. He'd never seen one. He wanted to know what it was. So the guys had a kick out of that. But he's going to fit in. I think he'll be a good player for us.
On the same token, Francis Gallen's kind of in the same situation, football-wise, not necessarily culture-wise, but you started to see the same things from him?
Yeah, well, Francis clearly is a big guy, can run. He's been impressive, in what we do, but he's played 1 year of football, really. So all of those guys, I think Pat Gamble, Francis, Adam, Chung Gong, we're excited about all of them. That doesn't mean they're all going to play this year, but, once we put the pads on, that'll kind of sort itself out too.
With those guys, with their path on the field, they like pass rush, those type of things.
Depends on what they can do. I mean, you'd love to throw them out there, and when we start playing, they're just light years better than the other guys. But we'll see. Their role's yet to be determined, I think.
Coach, can you talk about what it means to stay at Fred Holton back in the secondary? I know he had to kill this all last year.
Well, Fred's worked awfully hard on rehabbing. We thought he was going to be a really good player a year ago, and then he went down. And he's a big body that can rock down in the box, and he can run and cover and do some things. And I think, Fred's probably 215, 20 pounds, so it's a luxury to have a safety that big who's, I think a pretty good tackler. We'll see. He hadn't played a lot other than special teams to this point because he missed last year, but we're excited to have him back.
Coach, we know what Julian Burnett did on the field, but what does it mean for the loss of him off the field as well?
Well, anytime you lose a player of the caliber of Julian Burnett, it's certainly a blow to the football team, and especially early. Clearly he was one of the leaders on our team. He led the team in tackles, was possibly one of our best players, or might have been the best player. So it'll be hard to fill that role, but that's what happens. You have to move on. And, we've got some young guys that will step in, and hopefully they can fill the role and grow into it.
At the start of camp, has Brandon Watt worked his way up into the outside linebacker?
Well, Brandon ended spring as a starter opposite Jeremiah at outside linebacker, so we haven't done enough for him to move yet. Yeah, so he's, as of right now, he's a starter.
Does his speed and package enable you guys to be a little more flexible and do some more things?
I think Brandon's a really good athlete. We're always tweaking things and doing things. I'm not sure we're adding anything because Brandon's out there in place of somebody else. But anytime you can get speed on the field, that's a positive.
What are his strengths? Would you
Brandon? Well, he's older. He's been here for a while now. He's as you alluded to, he's got good speed, and he's transitioned. I think Brandon was a high school quarterback who came in as a safety, and now he's transitioned into an outside linebacker. So it's just been a process.
Did you see Bostic going into the 1-2 rotation at 8 back?
I don't know yet. He's certainly in there competing. There's a host of those guys in there at that position.
Can you talk a little bit more about that 8-back battle and what you guys want to see during camp and what you need going into that first game?
Well, Orwin Smith clearly is a guy that's played a lot of football and been a good player. The other side's still up for grabs. Normally we play 3 or 4 guys, 5 guys in a game. Coming out of spring, Robbie Godhigh and Dion Hill were probably a little bit ahead of BJ and Tony Zennon, Broderick Snoddy. Throw St. John Days in the mix. So there's a host of guys. Dennis has moved there. Dennis Andrews, quarterback. He's looked good the last 2 days. So there's guys. I'm not worried about that position. We got guys that can play there. It's just going to be a question of who.
Coach Orland said he wants to lead the nation in total yards this year.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I think that'd be great. I'm all for it.
Where can you see him maybe, other than, kickoff returns, where can you see him making the biggest, getting most of those all-purpose yards?
Well, I think just being consistent and hitting big plays. He hit a lot of big plays a year ago. I don't know what he rushed for. I'm terrible with stats, 600-700 yards, I guess. The passing game, he could be a big part of that as well. Just play well.
I know you freshman wide receivers played a pretty good bit last year.
Mm-hmm.
You be working heavy on their blocking ability this year, or?
Well, we always work on those guys. We try to make them complete players, and we got some good body types out there. It's as I've said before, Darren Waller's 6'6", 220, can run. Jeff Green's about 6'4". They're big kids. Jeremy Moore's a guy who hadn't played because of injury. He's been hurt really since he's been here, and he's healthy for the first time. If he can stay healthy, he brings something to the table. Chris Jackson's got an opportunity. This is his last go-around, so I'm sure he's hungry to try to get out there. And then we've had all 3 freshmen have looked good in camp so far in shorts. Autry, kid from Norcross, has done some good things. Michael Summers, Trey, they've done, so we'll have some guys to play there. As we were talking about Darren and Jeff, I know yesterday Jeff was messing around with his shoes. He had a blister. I went over there and to look at it, and he's a big kid. He wears size 15 shoes, and he's 6'4". He's a big, imposing guy.
Your B-back production last year was
Mm-hmm.
more than half, but not a whole lot more than you've gotten the 3 previous seasons. I'm sure you've looked at it over the winter.
Yeah.
Was that a factor of Tevin keeping the ball more, the line not blocking, or something?
I think there were several factors, and really I think you also got to, when you look at it, you have to look at it kind of like we did, where you also got to add Preston Lyons in there with David. And when Charles played some, we played with probably 3 or 4 guys, and if you do that, it was still down some, but it wasn't down as much as what people would think. I actually think David got better at it as the year went along. We didn't have the big plays out of that position that we've had, the big long runs. It's probably a function of all the above. Although, I would say the least amount of the problem was Tevin keeping the ball. It was probably more a function of not finishing and hitting big plays when you had the ball, not doing as well up front, not making the right, just a lot of myriad of reasons.
Speaking up front, Coach seems to have the most depth on the offensive line you've had since you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
How big is that for competition's sake during preseason?
Oh, it's huge. I was looking out there today, and you look at the first team, and all those guys have started games. And you got Shaq Mason, who's running on the second team, who started about 8 or 9 games. Tyler Kidney started 8 or 9 games. Nick McCrae's played a bunch. All those guys have been in games, too deep. So it's huge. I feel like we've got probably, 4 or 5 guards that we could play that we've never had. Same thing you could say at tackle. I mean, you look at Morgan Bailey. If he can stay healthy now, he looks the part. And we've thought he was a really good player for a while if he can stay out there. So hopefully he'll be healthy and get to play. And I think we've improved ourselves there. Will's a year older, Ray's a year older, Jay's older. Still the only senior up there starting is Amorgue. So still fairly young group, but they've played a lot of football.
Chris, for you all to have the kind of season you want, how much better do you feel like special teams has to be than?
Clearly we need to be better. We need to be better in every facet. It depends on which games they were. You can go back and look at special teams, and I'm not going to rehash that. There were games that we were pretty good in special teams. But everybody remembers the games that you miss. The kicker catches a bunch of grief. I did glance to see he kicked more extra points than anybody in Georgia Tech history a year ago. So he did some things right. He made some field goals. There was times when the punter was good. But it's like everything else, as soon as you don't hit a good one, that's the one everybody remembers. And we haven't been great in the return game in a while. So clearly we've tried to address it. Hopefully we'll be better. But we got to play better on defense and offense, too. It's not just special teams. Yeah.
Coach, in your option, it's split-second timing. Everything has to be exactly at the right time. And looking at bowl games, when you have that stretch of time,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that plays a factor in the effectiveness in a bowl game when it's not like the next week, it's weeks later? Is there a correlation somewhere in there maybe?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. But, until we win some, they're going to have a lot of reasons. You just got to go win the game. I mean, didn't bother us at Navy. I mean, I can remember playing, I think, 2 of the bowl games we played there, we set bowl records for offense and scoring, so it didn't hinder us then. I think back to the bowl games. You can always coulda, shoulda, woulda. We should have won the game a year ago. Offensively we could have done better in the fourth quarter, but we also gave up 14 points in the last 7 minutes of the game too, and we missed 3 kicks. So the year before, if you go back to the bowl game in Shreveport, you want to rehash it. If we catch 2 punts, we win the game. Now it wouldn't have been 56-50, but you can always go back and look. I think sometimes people try to overanalyze. The first bowl game here, we got the slot beat out of us. It wasn't just offense that was having a problem. It was the defense that had a little problem too, and special teams. And then in the Orange Bowl game, we didn't play particularly well. I was pretty good on defense. I looked the other day, I think 7 of those guys are in the NFL. So is there 9? Yeah. Okay. So they were pretty good. People tend to forget. You'll play a team that's top 10 in defense, and the score is 24-21, and everybody wants to know what's wrong with the offense. And if you go back and look, there's not a lot of teams that scored 21 on that team or whatever. So it's you just continue to work and play. And I don't think that it's as big a deal as everybody says. Just I don't think the extra time's as big as everybody says. But
Just one or two?
yeah.